Hi guys. So for our presentation, we're going to be talking about universal basic income. We are group 3, and that consists of Victoria McAlister, Jeremy Kerzner, Mark Ruoff, and Aswathy Cinu.
All right, I'm going to talk about what UBI entails. UBI came from the Declaration of Human Rights. It says everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security. A universal basic income consists of 3 things: the right to income, regardless of income of other citizens, regardless of a need to work, and third, that the income is granted without the need to do any work by the beneficiary of that income. It involves a periodic payment to citizens. It can be full or partial, meaning that it can either cover the full cost of living or a partial cost. It's similar to welfare, but not the same. It's also not intended to replace all types of welfare. And that payment comes with no strings attached. Means regardless of whether or not you're working, you have a right to it. Plans differ by country. It depends who receives the income, those below the poverty line, those who are working or not, or those who are in a specific industry. And also the funding for UBI comes from different sources. Some proponents think that we should tax the wealthy or corporations, and some say to save money, some programs might not pay as much as others. And this is a very basic graph that I made showing the difference between a UBI versus a standard income. We can see here that at 0 hours of work, a UBI pays slightly more than the standard income would. And as the number of hours worked increases, the UBI provides less and less income.
So current UBI implementation, it's not currently implemented in the US as a national program, but some states have experimented with UBI in the past. But you can see UBI more implemented in other countries in the world. So the following locations currently have UBI programs. In Alaska, they have an unconditional universal state-provided cash-based UBI program that's in place that gives 615,000 residents about $1,000 to $2,000 per year. The Islamic Republic of Iran has a UBI system that replaced bread and energy subsidies and gives household heads monthly payments of $40 to $45 a month. The program is nationwide. It covers about 97% of the population and has continuously been implemented since 2010. In Kenya, they have a UBI program that is crowd-funded, mobile-based transfer system, and there are treatment villages of about 21,000 residents that receive $23 per month for about 12 years, and 5,000 residents of them receive long-term basic income, and it's in addition to other social programs. Finland created a UBI program from 2017 to 2019 that replaced existing social benefit programs, and it budgeted about $20 million per year for 2,000 residents to be given about $560 per month to anyone between the ages of 25 and 58 that was unemployed. In the Great Smoky Mountains of North Carolina, the Eastern Band of Cherokee Nations has a UBI or social wealth fund currently implemented to all 15,000 tribe members. Since 1996, it's in addition to existing programs. The members receive a cash payment twice a year, and the payouts have changed over the years, but after new legislation, members receive payouts from birth and receive $25,000 per year. And then on the right, you can see everywhere that UBI has been implemented or is currently implemented. So UBI and similar social programs in the past. So this includes proposals and pilots, which the difference between it is a proposal is something that is proposed, while a pilot is something that's like a trial run. So President Nixon had a family assistance plan in the 1969-1970s in the form of a negative income tax, where a family of 4 would receive $1,600 per year if they were without income, and it would be adjusted until the income reached about $39.20. And this was a nationwide means test with a set aside budget of $1.9 billion a year, but it was halted by the state and eventually stopped before it reached its final stages. In 2018, and even in the 2016 like Democrat presidential campaign, Andrew Yang proposed this idea, which brought a lot of light to UBI, and it was basically a 10% value added tax on corporations that would generate $800 billion, where $1,000 from the government would be given to everyone between the ages of 18 and 64 per month, with the stipulation of having to choose between existing welfare and the $1,000 monthly payment. The UBI related pilots, there's been a pilot in Finland, as you can see, that was from 2017 to 2019, and it ended. And then in other places in the US, like Indiana, Iowa, New Jersey, North Carolina, and Seattle in the 1970s, but more pilots have been introduced in the past couple of years, such as in California, that would be backed by private donations. So on the right, you can also see that there's other experiments that's been done in the world, and they include negative income taxes or adjustments to EITC payments, or something like I've talked about with UBI, and that can be seen in Canada, the Netherlands, other places in the EU, India, Namibia, and Uganda.
So how does labor supply how will labor supply be affected by universal basic income? So on a theoretical level, universal basic income can be modeled through an increase to an individual's non-labor income, since, as mentioned before, most proposals for UBI are not dependent on one's income level. So as seen on the graph to the left, this represents an individual's budget constraint and indifference curve. This individual will choose to be at their indifference curve that is tangent to the budget constraint, and thus their levels of consumption and leisure can be seen by the dotted lines. Now with the universal basic income in place, the graph to the right would now model what this would look like. So the level of non-labor income would shift up, which would cause a parallel shift to the budget constraint, and this would in turn allow for the individual to move up to a higher indifference curve, as seen in the shifts from C to C sub 1 and L to L sub 1. This would cause an increase in consumption to go along with an increase in leisure. And this increase in leisure would also come with a decrease in the number of hours worked. So now looking at how UBI could impact labor force participation, if an individual has the budget constraint and preferences of the graph on the left, then they would choose to work because the wage that they could earn is greater than their reservation wage. However, after UBI, their budget constraint will shift and they can move up to a higher indifference curve. If the indifference curve happened to be tangent to the budget constraint at the individual's endowment point, then they will be indifferent on whether or not to enter the labor force. So in the end, UBI's impact on labor supply is all dependent on the individual's preferences, as well as just how much universal basic income is given out to each individual.
I will be talking about some of the arguments for and against the policy. So some of the arguments for UBI state that UBI strengthens individual economic freedom by allowing citizens to use the money however they want. Economic freedoms would include the ability to do the kind of work they want, and it would improve the bargaining power of citizens, as they would have the right to choose or refuse dangerous or unsafe working conditions. Another argument for UBI is that it would improve a fair distribution of wealth. It would ensure that everyone gets a uniform amount of money that covers basic monthly expenses. Efficient use of government time and resources. UBI being a universal program would make it easier to identify beneficiaries. Social programs that provide services and subsidies can be replaced, and the money can be put forward to implementing UBI. It would save time, as money would be directly transferred to the citizens instead of them having to go through multiple intermediary institutions. Some of the arguments against UBI is that it would promote demoralization of working among citizens of a country, which can lead to reduced labor supply. there will be higher taxation rate to fund UBI. This is one of the most common arguments against UBI, as it stems from the fact that the government would have to raise taxes in order to fund the program. Another argument against UBI is that it would cause a rise in inflation. An increased money supply can cause an increase in inflation, which can lead to the decrease in purchasing power for citizens in a country. So, the most important goal of UBI is to build financial security among citizens of the country, and they do that by providing basic income to cover monthly expenses. When people have financial stability, naturally they have more time to focus on their other needs. It also causes less stress among families and can lead to increased productivity among people.
All right, that's it.